The blood didn't just stain the carpet. It soaked into the building's history, a silent witness to a horror defying all logic we know. Imagine a man checking into a hotel with just a comb and toothbrush, using a fake name. Sitting in total darkness for hours, waiting for a guest who may or may not exist. Gasping his last breaths in a room locked from the inside. No weapon, no clothes, no motive. This is the mystery of Roland T. Owen, a case so twisted, so bizarre, that nearly a century later, the cold files still pulse with an eerie, unresolved energy. Welcome to Dark Case Files. Today we dive into a nightmare that still doesn't make sense. The winter of 1935 was unforgiving. Kansas City was draped in a gray, freezing fog, a city caught between desperation and shadows. He had no luggage, no coat despite the biting cold. He registered as Roland T. Owen, requesting an interior room on an upper floor. He was assigned room 1046. The bellboy, Randolph Probst, noticed something immediately off. Owen seemed nervous, vibrating with internal dread. When they reached the room, Owen took a small comb and brush from his pocket, his only possessions. He then sat in a chair in the corner, staring at the door. This was the first stitch in a tapestry of madness that was about to unfold. Over the next few days, events felt like a fever dream. Mary Soptic, a maid, entered the room to clean and found Owen sitting in total darkness. But this time, he looked terrified. A note on the desk read, "Doan, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." But Doan never arrived while anyone was looking, or did he? On January 4th, the atmosphere shifted. From strange to sinister. A delivery man attempting to bring a package heard two voices inside 1046. One was Owen's, sounding breathless and weak. The other was a deep, guttural voice that simply said, "Go away. We don't want anything." The breaking point came on the morning of January 5th. The hotel switchboard operator noticed that the phone in room 1046 was off the hook. After several failed attempts, the night porter, Robert Lane, was sent up. He found the door locked with a "Do Not Disturb" sign. Using his master key, he entered, thinking the guest was sleeping off a bender. But the phone went off the hook again an hour later. This time, the porter found a scene from a slasher film. The walls were splattered with blood, as if they had been bound by cords that were nowhere to be found. When the police arrived, he whispered, "Nobody." I fell against the bathtub. Roland T. Owen died shortly after reaching the hospital. That's when the reality of the situation shattered. Roland T. Owen didn't exist. There was no record of him. The clothes he wore to the hotel were gone, stolen by the killer, or never there. There were no knives in the room. No ropes, no blood-stained clothing. The police were baffled. How does a man get tortured and stabbed multiple times in a room locked from the inside, and then claim he fell? The investigation took a weirder turn when a funeral home received an anonymous call. A man's voice, cold and steady, told them, "Don't bury him in a pauper's grave. I will send money for a proper funeral." Shortly after, an envelope arrived with enough cash to cover a high-end burial and a floral arrangement signed, "Love forever, Lucille." Who was Lucille? Who was Doan? And why did a woman in another state later claim the man was her son? Artemis Ogletree, who had supposedly been traveling the world. If it was Artemis, why was he in Kansas City? Under a fake name, meeting men in the dark who wanted him dead. To this day, the case of room 1046 remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. Was it a hit by the mob? A lover's quarrel? Or something far more occult? The logistics of the crime defy every standard investigative protocol. It is a puzzle where the pieces have been intentionally melted down. The room has been renovated many times, but the legend of the man who sat in the dark remains. Some stories are meant to be solved. Others are warnings about the darkness we invite in when we wait for friends who never show their faces. This case remains a void. A man with no name, killed by a ghost, in a room that held no secrets but blood. The deeper you dig into the file of room 1046, the less sense it makes. But maybe you see a pattern the detectives missed. To truly understand the horror of January 1935, when the police searched the room, they found absolutely nothing that belonged to the man known as Roland. No suitcase, no coat, no extra shirt. Even the hotel's soap and towels were missing. This wasn't just a murder. It was a scrubbed scene. It was as if someone wanted to erase Roland Tioen from existence before he even stopped breathing. The autopsy revealed that the injuries were inflicted hours apart, suggesting a prolonged period of torture. Someone had sat in that small, windowless room with him. What secret is worth a slow, agonizing death in a budget hotel? Detectives trailed every lead. They looked into the Doan mentioned in the note. They searched for Lucille. They even looked into the strange man who checked in right after Roland, a man who seemed equally nervous. But every lead turned into a brick wall. The mystery deepened when a woman named Ruby Ogletree saw a photo of the mystery man in a magazine. Months later, she screamed. It was her son, Artemis. He had left Alabama to see the world, sending her letters from Egypt and New York. But when the letters were examined, they weren't in his handwriting. Someone had been ghostwriting for Artemis, keeping his mother at bay while he was being hunted or while he was hiding. Was Artemis involved in a high-stakes scam? Or was he a victim of a secret society? Some believe the Don't was a lover. Others believe he was a handler for a criminal organization. The truth is buried in a grave in Kansas City, paid for by a killer who had a strange sense of honor. The sheer impossibility of the locked door remains the most haunting factor. In 1935, hotel locks were robust. To leave the room locked from the inside required a key to be present, yet no key was found. This implies the killer didn't just walk out. They were invited in and they were allowed to leave. The psychological grip the killer had over Owen or Artemis was so absolute that even as his lungs filled with blood, he chose to protect his executioner. This is the definition of a cold case, one that freezes your blood. What do you think really happened in that room? Was Owen protecting someone he loved, or was he terrified of someone he couldn't escape? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you have a thirst for the unexplained and the macabre, make sure to subscribe to Dark Case Files. We peel back the layers of the world's most haunting mysteries every week. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a descent into the dark. Until next time, keep your doors locked. And maybe leave the lights on.